are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And
keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Friday, February 7th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today. Before I get into all that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to hit that super chat button in the chat if you want to see me acknowledge any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. Makes the show more lively, more entertaining. Between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers, we appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, GSMCPodcast.net. That is GSMCPodcast.net. So, let's get into what we are going to discuss for today. So, we are going to start off the show. We are going to preview our final game of the NFL season, and that is Super Bowl 59 coming up on Sunday between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll also, in the next two segments, we'll do an overview on their season. So we'll take a look back at the Chiefs' regular season, what they had to do to get here, and then the same thing goes for the Eagles. We'll take a look back at their season and the journey they went on to get to this point. Then we will also take a look at who has the best odds to win Super Bowl MVP. And then in the final part of the show, I will give you my reaction to last night's NFL honors. So let's get into the first topic, which is previewing the Super Bowl. So we've talked about this game a lot, many different angles that have come with it. But now we are actually going to preview this game for real. And like I've been saying for the last 2 weeks, this is going to be a very good game, in my opinion. I don't know if it's going to be as high scoring as the previous Super Bowl matchup between these two teams, but I do think this will be a very competitive game, and I think it's going to come down to the last couple of possessions, similar to what happened in the previous matchup, although, like I said, not as high scoring. But these two teams, arguably the two best teams in football all season. The Eagles this time around are the number 2 seed, but I talked about this. I think if they went into Detroit, the way Detroit's defense was banged up, I think they probably win that game. So this is the best of the best right here. And both teams have done an exceptional job of limiting the turnovers or just not turning the ball over at all. The Chiefs, they turned the ball over the first time last week, or 2 weeks ago against the Bills, but they still won the game. The Eagles have not committed a turnover this entire postseason. So both teams have done a great job. And when I talked about the previous Super Bowl matchup, there was a big turnover in that game. Jalen Hurts fumbled. Nick Bolton returned it for a touchdown. And that made a huge difference in the game. So a big turnover in this game, that could be the difference. That could be the difference. And the matchups I'm intrigued by, and I've talked about them already, but how is the Chiefs' offensive line, how do they match up against the Eagles' defensive line, and then vice versa? How does the Eagles' offensive line match up against the Chiefs' defensive line? And I think the Eagles have the advantage when it comes to those battles because the Chiefs' offensive line is weaker than the Eagles', in my opinion. Eagles got a couple of all-pros. And, on the other side, yeah, I just think the Eagles' defense, this defense is a better unit than what we saw in the Super Bowl a couple years ago. Now, something that I want to make note of, there's some kind of illness going around with the Eagles, and players are experiencing flu-like symptoms. And, that could be a problem, but I don't think that's going to affect this game. I think players are going to be ready to play come Sunday, but that's just something to make note of. When it comes to the Chiefs, look, they've been there and they've done that. They're going for their third straight Super Bowl victory, something that's never been done in NFL history, and I think they have a great chance to do that on Sunday. Now, they haven't looked the prettiest on offense all year, but I thought against the Bills they played probably their best game of the year. And this is what happens come playoff time with the Chiefs. They just flip that switch, and they know how to get it done. And I think it's going to be a tough task here. I think, all their Super Bowl wins in the Mahomes era, it's been tough. I talked about it yesterday. They had to overcome 10-point deficits all 3 times. So who's to say it can't happen again? And I think the Chiefs have a better chance of coming back from a double-digit deficit as opposed to the Eagles. The Eagles got to make sure that this game stays close, because I think if they fall behind, it could be a problem. Could be a problem. So, yeah, and you got a quarterback that, what a resume he has built in such a short period of time. Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid. We talked about their legacies with this game coming up. Travis Kelce as well. How is the Eagles' defense going to do this time around against Patrick Mahomes and this Chiefs offense? And I did say this. I think, this is going to be a war, but there's going to be battles won on both sides. Is the Eagles' pass rush going to be able to get to Mahomes? They got the guys up front to do it, whether it's Jalen Carter up the middle or Sweat, Nolan Smith on the outside. Because the Chiefs, again, the offensive line's a little shaky. And if the Eagles are able to get after Mahomes, it could be a problem. But Mahomes is healthier this time around in this Super Bowl matchup. So I think, if he's going to have to evade the pressure and get out of, some jams, he's going to be able to do it. Like I said, he's going to be healthier this time in this Super Bowl. So you got that. And then the secondary for the Eagles is very good with the young players they have back there. And then, of course, you have Zach Baum, who's an all-pro, underrated signing. Vic Fangio is 0-8 against Patrick Mahomes in his career. But a lot of people have said it. He didn't have the defense that he has now. The amount of talent on this defense is unreal. So, yeah, the Chiefs might have some problems early on, but, it could be a slow start for them. But in the second half, they always seem to make adjustments, and then they come out and they look like a better team. And that could be something similar that happens here. And then on the other side with the Eagles, like I said, I think the Eagles have the advantage when it comes to the offensive line. I think they're going to be able to control the line of scrimmage. And I think Saquon Barkley is going to have a big game. Now, for the Eagles, the key for them is to try to keep the ball away from Mahomes and the Chiefs' offense. And like I said, I think they're going to be able to control the line of scrimmage. So, run the football and, Jalen Hurts, make plays with your feet, make plays with your arm. Do what you got to do. And the Eagles got a great shot at winning this game. Jalen Hurts played very well in the last Super Bowl matchup, and I think he's going to play well here. He'll make big plays. I talked about how Dallas Goedert's going to be an underrated player in this game because there's going to be so much focus on Barkley and the receivers. Dallas Goedert's kind of the forgotten guy. So I think he'll make some big plays in this game. Have some big catches. You figure the receivers are going to be involved. So, we'll see what happens. But now, when it comes to who I think is going to win the game, I've kind of made it known. I'm still going to roll with the Chiefs. I think the Eagles have the advantage in a lot of areas when we went over the rosters. But I just think with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, they know how to win these type of games, these close games. They've come back from deficits to win their Super Bowls. And I just feel like it's going to be no different here. I think even if the offense is struggling early on, if Mahomes is getting put under pressure, they're going to make the adjustments that are necessary to win this game. And I think they're going to win a close game. Like I said, it could come down to the last couple of possessions. Maybe we get to see what we didn't get to see last time, where, the Chiefs go ahead late and the Eagles have time to go down the field and answer. Legitimately answer. Not, there's barely any time left and Jalen Hurts has to throw up a Hail Mary. Maybe we see some late game drama like that. But I just feel like whatever this game throws at us, I think ultimately it's going to be the Chiefs that come away victorious. And they win a close game. Could be a 3-point game. Like I said, I don't think it's going to be 38-35. Maybe it's 31-28, something like that. But yeah, I got the Chiefs winning and three-peating. I had them three-peating to start the year, although it was going to be against the Lions. But here, it's going to be against the Eagles. And I think that's going to be the final score. It's going to be a 3-point game. It's going to be a great game. Really looking forward to it. But yeah, I ultimately have the Chiefs winning and capturing their third straight Super Bowl and their fourth Super Bowl overall in the Mahomes-Andy Reid era. But it should be a great game. But let me know what you guys think. Who do you think wins this matchup? Let me know in the comments. So when we come back from our first break, we will do an overview of the Chiefs season and how they got to this point. The drama, all the games that, led to this point. Do a little brief, run through for each game. But that's what we're going to do for both teams as we move along here in the show. So when we come back, we'll take a look back at the Chiefs' road to the Super Bowl. So stick around. And we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh,
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we are going to now get into talking about the Chiefs and their road to the Super Bowl, how they got there. So we'll take you way back to when they opened up the season against the Ravens. And many people looked at that as possibly being a AFC Championship game preview. A potential AFC Championship game preview. I mean, it was a rematch from the previous season. And this was a good game. This was entertaining. This came down to the end. See, that's the common thing. A lot of these games came down to the very end. And this game got us started off with that. So, the Chiefs ended up winning that game 27-20. And at the very end of the game, The Ravens were driving. Lamar Jackson, he throws what we thought was a touchdown to Isaiah Likely, but his toe was just out of bounds. And that ended up getting reversed, and the Chiefs ended up winning by 7. Now, if Likely gets that, the Ravens would have went for 2, and who knows what would have happened if the Ravens would have stole a victory there. So you had that. Then you also had the game against the Bengals. Burrow and Mahomes going at it once again. And, the Bengals, they were coming off of a loss to the Patriots. And it looked like the Bengals were going to end up winning. Mahomes throws up a prayer on 4th and 16. And it ended up being incomplete. But there ended up being a flag on the play. And that led to a first down. Chiefs get into field goal range. Butker kicks the game winner, and they win 26-25. Then they ended up winning that close game against the Falcons on that Sunday night, 22-17. The Falcons had their opportunities. And they go for it with Bijan Robinson. They run it with him, and the Chiefs read that play beautifully, and they stopped the Falcons, and they ended up winning that game as well. So they were 3-0. Then against the Chargers, they win 17-10 to improve to 4-0. However, they did lose Rashee Rice in that game. Mahomes was trying to make a play, and he ended up colliding with Rashee Rice, because I think there was a turnover on that play, and Rashee Rice ended up getting hurt, and they ended up losing him for the year. And Xavier Worthy, he scored his 3rd touchdown of the season. He had a couple against the Ravens to open up the year. We didn't really get to talk about him actually in the opener, but he's going to play a big role in the Super Bowl, and we'll talk about him a little bit later when we go over the possible Super Bowl MVPs. But yeah, Worthy scored a touchdown in the game, and yeah, that was a pretty close game. Another close game, another one-score game. Then the Chiefs actually ended up winning by a couple of scores against the Saints. They were versing an old buddy in Derek Carr, and they ended up winning that game 26-13. Mahomes 331 yards on the day. He had no touchdowns and a pick. Juju Smith-Schuster, I think this was his first game back, making his return to the Chiefs, with the injuries, to Rashee Rice. And he had 7 receptions for 130 yards. So he picked up right where he left off with the Chiefs, and the Chiefs went to 5-0. Then they went on a bye. They came out, and we had the Super Bowl rematch against the 49ers. And yeah, Brock Purdy did not play well in that game. I think what did he throw? 3 interceptions in the game? Yeah, he had 3 interceptions in the game. Mahomes wasn't great either. He had 2 interceptions, and he threw for 154 yards. Kareem Hunt had 2 touchdowns in the game, and they improved to 6-0. And the 49ers dealt with a lot that week. I mean, Deebo Samuel tried to play, but he was dealing with, that was when he had pneumonia. And I think Brandon Ayuk got hurt in the game. It wasn't a good game for the Niners. That was a very forgettable game. But the Chiefs picked up the win there. They picked up a win against the Raiders. The Raiders played the Chiefs tough this year. A couple of one-score games. I mean, the second one, the second game they played against them, they had a good chance to win that game, 19-17. But you had the bobbled snap at the end of that game. They played the Buccaneers in Week 9. Chiefs won that in overtime. Kareem Hunt scored the game-winning touchdown. That game was back and forth, and it came down to the coin toss. Mahomes and the Chiefs get the ball. They go right down the field. They score, and they win the game. Then against the Broncos, you had the Broncos at the doorsteps of winning, and the Chiefs ended up blocking, the potential Will Lutz game-winning field goal, and they lose 16-14. But then they suffer their first loss of the season the following week against the Bills and Josh Allen. Josh Allen picks up that first down on 4th and 2 and puts them up 30-21. Mahomes had a couple of picks in the game. One of them was at the end just trying to get something going. But the Chiefs did suffer their first loss of the year. And, I think people thought after that, hey, maybe this could be the Bills' year. But that turned out not to be the case. They played a close game against the Panthers. The Chiefs were up by a couple of scores in that game, And this kind of showed you something about the Panthers. The ability to come back and tie the game, but, Mahomes led a drive down the field. They kicked the game winner, and they won 30-27. They beat the Raiders 19-17. That was a close game. The Raiders had an opportunity, like I said, and then, the fumble at the end of the game, Chiefs recovered it, and the Raiders lose a close one. Then they beat the Chargers 19-17 the following week. That was the doink off the upright, and it went in. And that just goes to show you that, there is some luck on the side of the Chiefs, because it's just, you get the block field goal, then you get a game-winning field goal like that. And a lot of great teams get a little bit of luck on their side, and this was no different here. But yeah, they won another close game against the Chargers. Then they won 21-7 against the Browns. Mahomes got a little banged up in the game, and Carson Wentz had to finish it out, which was the right move, because the Browns' offense was just doing nothing, and their quarterbacks did not do well. You had 3 interceptions by Jameis Winston in the game, and then DTR had an interception in the game as well, and a couple of fumbles too. I mean, the Browns, they turned the ball over constantly in this game. So yeah, taking Mahomes out was the right move. So that happened, and then this is when I thought the Chiefs started to get it going. These next 2 weeks against the Texans and the Steelers offensively. So they beat the Texans 27-19. Mahomes had a rushing touchdown in the game. I believe Xavier Worthy also had another touchdown. Kareem Hunt had a touchdown. Yeah, Worthy had a touchdown in the game as well. This was the game that Tank Dell got hurt in, which was unfortunate. But yeah, the Chiefs ended up winning the game 27-19. And then against the Steelers, this is when I said, yeah, they're starting to flip that switch. Because they got Hollywood Brown back, I believe, for this game. And they just looked good. Yeah, Hollywood Brown did play in this game. He only had 4 receptions for 46 yards. Actually, did he come back in the Texans game? Why do I feel like he came back for the Texans game too? Oh yeah, he did. So he did come back for that game. But yeah, no, 29-10 over the Steelers. This is when they started to get it going. And also, I forgot to mention, they did get DeAndre Hopkins at this point, and he had a couple of actually, yeah, I'm like way past it, because he had a good game against the Buccaneers. He had a couple of touchdowns in that game. But yeah, they have a lot of veteran wide receivers going into this game against the Eagles. And like I said, against the Steelers, they looked really good. I mean, the Steelers looked flat, but the Chiefs looked like they were starting to round into form at the right time. So they won 29-10. Then they rested their starters. They lose 38-0 to the Broncos. I mean, there's really no shame in that. That ended up being their second loss of the year. Now, if that was their starters playing the whole game and they had to play for something and they lost 38-0, yeah, then I would have more to say. But they rested their guys. They weren't really playing for anything. So yeah, they allowed the Broncos to take advantage of that, win that game, and get into the playoffs. And then we get to the playoffs, and they put a lot of pressure on C.J. Stroud. Got sacked 8 times. And, the Chiefs did just enough. Mahomes didn't have a monster game. Kelsey did have a monster game. What did he have in that? He had 7 receptions for 117 yards and a touchdown. Chiefs ended up winning that game 23-14. And then, of course, we get to the AFC Championship game, and they win that 32-29 over the Bills. Back and forth game, very competitive. And they were able to get the win at the end. Mahomes hit Samaje Perine on that first down. The Bills don't get an opportunity to get the ball back. They did have their chances, but they were not able to capitalize. And the Chiefs ended up winning, and they are back in the Super Bowl. So that's kind of an overview on a recap on their season. And like I said, the offense struggled at times during the year. Mahomes, he threw for 3,900 yards, 26 touchdowns, 11 picks. I'm waiting for Mahomes to get back to, when he would throw 30 plus, 40 plus. The first year that he was a starter, he threw 50 touchdowns. But, he's kind of had to adapt because of, some of the guys that have left over the years. But, look, who cares? I mean, if he wins the Super Bowl, it doesn't matter what kind of regular season he had. I mean, he'd much rather have Super Bowls than MVPs. So, yeah, no, and we'll see how this game goes. We'll see how this game goes coming up. But the Chiefs finished 15-2. I mean, the Broncos' loss, again, that came at the hands of them resting their guys. Had their starters played the whole game, probably would have went differently. But they're 15-2, and like I said, they got an opportunity to make history coming up. So, yeah, that's the Chiefs' season overview. So before we go to break, just want to remind you guys once again to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to hit that super chat button in the chat if you want to see me acknowledge any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. Makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, GSMCPodcast.net. That is GSMCPodcast.net. So when we come back from our next break, we will talk about the Eagles and their journey to the Super Bowl. What happened throughout the year? How did they get to this point? We'll take a look back on what was the Eagles season when we return from our next break. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we are going to now get into talking about the Eagles and their road to the Super Bowl, how they got here. So, unlike the Chiefs, the Eagles, it took a little bit for them to kind of find themselves. Now, the Chiefs, they were trying to do that, but they were winning games. The Eagles did start off the year 2-2. And they started off the year in Brazil, that Friday night against the Packers. And that was kind of a messy game. There were turnovers. There was really no defense in the game. Both offenses were moving the ball up and down the field. But this is when Saquon Barkley, put everybody on notice, like, hey, I'm going to have a big year. Because he had 3 touchdowns in the game. And, yeah, I mean, already he was making his mark as an Eagle. And the Eagles did pick up the win. That was the game Jordan Love got hurt in, so, we were kind of concerned with that. But, of course, Jordan Love did come back. I mean, he did deal with injuries throughout the whole year, but it didn't look good when that injury initially happened. But he ended up coming back. But, yeah, it was not a great game for the Eagles, though, collectively. And, and I've said this, it took the defense some time to gel, which it eventually did in a big way. But, yeah, not a great game to start off. And then it didn't get any better. Well, they won the game. But then they ended up losing that loss. They ended up losing that game against the Falcons. They lose 22-21. Barkley drops that first down pass from Hurts. And then Kirk Cousins and the Falcons go down the field. They score. They end up winning the game 22-21. And, things just didn't look good after that. And then they go up to New Orleans. And, you had people very concerned going into that game because the Saints started off the year 2-0, and they were playing really good football. They put up 40 points back-to-back weeks, and the Eagles were banged up. A.J. Brown was hurt. Devontae Smith, I think, got hurt in this game. So it's just there were concerns. It wasn't looking good, and the Eagles did put up a lot of yards in this game, but they didn't turn anything into points. They were going for it on fourth down. Actually, what did they end up finishing on fourth down in this game? So their fourth down efficiency, they went 1 for 3. So yeah, I mean, I don't know why I thought it was more, but they put up 460 yards of total offense to the Saints 219. Like, if they would have cashed in, they could have blew the Saints out, but they didn't. So this was a pretty close game throughout. The Eagles did not have a single point until the fourth quarter. It was 3-0 Saints going into the fourth quarter, and then all of a sudden you had Saquon Barkley take it to the house. He ended up breaking off a 65-yard run, scoring the touchdown, making it 7-3. Then the Saints scored a field goal after that. The Eagles missed a field goal. Saints got a touchdown to make it 12-7. And then you had Dallas Goedert on 3rd and 16 picking up the first down and then some. A 61-yard reception. And then that led to another Barkley touchdown. Derek Carr ended up throwing a pick, and the Eagles picked up the win there. And that was a game that, people started saying, okay, maybe, things are starting to turn around now. They put that loss to the Falcons behind them, and they're ready to move forward. But then they played against the Buccaneers, and it was kind of more of the same from the playoff game last year. Baker Mayfield and that offense had their way against Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. Baker put up 347 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. The Bucs ran the ball for over 100 yards. Mike Evans had a touchdown in the game. And, the Eagles were missing their top 2 guys. No Devontae Smith, no A.J. Brown. Saquon Barkley only had 84 yards on the ground, and a big chunk of it came on a 59-yard run at one point. But, yeah, it wasn't looking good for the Eagles at 2-2. And the bye week came at the right time. So then when they came out of the bye, they proceeded to win 10 straight games. And the only game that they ended up losing from that point on, it was the Commanders game. And that was the game that Jalen Hurts suffered a concussion. They ended up losing at the very end when Jane Daniels threw the touchdown to Jamison Crowder to put them ahead. So the Eagles then, but other than that, the Eagles dominated the rest of the season. Against the Browns, though, however, they only won 20-16. So I still wasn't totally sold yet on the Eagles. Then Saquon Barkley makes his return to MetLife Stadium, and he had a big day, rushing for 176 yards and a touchdown. Not really surprised by that. The Eagles continue their dominance against the Giants. They beat up on the Bengals in Cincy 37-17. Barkley had that signature play, that backwards hurdle against Jacksonville the following week. Although that game was closer than it should have been. Jacksonville had some opportunities there to win the game, but they didn't. Eagles won that. And then the Eagles beat up on Dallas. They beat Washington on that Thursday night. Saquon had a couple of big runs in that game, a couple of touchdowns. Then they beat up on the... See, this is when you started to say, you know what, the Eagles... They're legit because they beat the Commanders, then they beat the Rams in LA. They won 37-20, and then they beat the Ravens on the road 24-19, which I thought was very impressive. And that really showed you that, hey, this defense is legit because, they gave Lamar Jackson a tough time. Derrick Henry didn't have a big day. And they were down early in that game, but they came back and they won that game. And like I said, that put us on notice. Like, all right, this Eagles team is starting to round into form. They won a close game against the Panthers, who started to play better, 22-16. They won by a couple of scores against the Steelers. Like I said, they lost that game to the Commanders. Jalen Hurts got hurt in the game. But then, you had Kenny Pickett and Tanner McKee starting the final 2 games. Well, Kenny Pickett actually got hurt, so Tanner McKee started the final 2 games. They beat up on Dallas again, 41-7, and then they beat the Giants 20-13. And then Hurts came back. They beat the Packers 22-10. Their defense shut down that Packers offense. The Packers offense really couldn't get anything going other than Josh Jacobs being able to run the football a little bit. The Rams, Saquon Barkley had a big day. They won that game 28-22. Got dicey at the end. The Rams had the opportunity to win the game, but Jalen Carter had the sack on Stafford at the end on that 3rd and 2. They were able to win that. Rams didn't convert on the 4th down, and then they just beat up on the Commanders, 55-23. Commanders, turned the ball over a bunch of times. Saquon Barkley, set the tone with that touchdown run to open up the game. Hurts had a good day, and the Eagles once again back in the Super Bowl. And in the beginning of the year, there was definitely some finger pointing. Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni, that relationship's not working. It's a problem. But you know what? They were able to figure it out. And they're back in the Super Bowl once again. Give them a lot of credit. And this team that they have right now is probably better than the team that they had previously when they got to the Super Bowl. And I think they have a great chance to win this game on Sunday. It's going to be tough because, they're going up against a team that has been there and done that so many times. But they have that experience. They got to this point a couple years ago, and they've definitely thought about this, for a while, and they want to redeem themselves. And they have a great chance to do that on Sunday. But they showed you, though, throughout the year, they overcame that slow start. The defense really started to play together and gel. And, Jalen Hurts, he didn't put up big stats. 2,900 passing yards, 18 touchdowns to 5 picks. Had 14 rushing touchdowns, but a lot of them was on the due to the credit of the tush push. Saquon Barkley had over 2,000 yards rushing, 13 rushing touchdowns on the year. A.J.Brown, still with the time that he missed, still had over 1,000 yards. He had 7 touchdowns. Devontae Smith had 8. Dallas Goedert had a couple of touchdowns. Saquon had 2 receiving touchdowns on the season. But this team is really good. And you look at some of the defensive stats. Jalen Carter had 4.5 sacks on the season, 2 forced fumbles. Josh Sweat, 8 sacks on the season. Nolan Smith, 6.5 sacks on the season. These are the guys that are going to have to get to Mahomes. Are they going to be able to do that? And I like I said to open up the show, they're going to win their battles, and I think they will put some pressure on Mahomes in this game. They'll be able to get after him at times. But yeah, give the Eagles credit. It was a rough ending to their season in 2023, but they look like the team that we saw a couple years ago make it all the way to the Super Bowl. And they're looking to knock off the Chiefs and get it done this time around, and we'll see if they're able to do it. But let me know what you guys think about the Eagles season. It was an impressive year for them, and we got one game left. So let's see what happens this time around. So we are going to take our next break, and then when we come back, we will continue to talk about the Super Bowl. Who will win Super Bowl MVP? We will get into that conversation. Who has the best chance of doing so? Based off of, my prediction early on in the show, you kind of know where I'd probably end up leaning towards when it comes to that. But we'll take a look at, who are the favorites to win. What could be, some underrated picks for Super Bowl MVP. We'll get into all that when we come back from our next break. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the fourth part of the show, we are going to take a look at who has the best odds to win Super Bowl MVP and who I think will win Super Bowl MVP. Well, based off of, who I have winning the game, it's going to be somebody on the Chiefs side. And I think, if the Chiefs end up winning, it's going to end up being Patrick Mahomes who wins Super Bowl MVP. And looking at the latest odds, and I was trying to pull them up during the break, but this is the top 10 right here. Who has the best odds? So we got Patrick Mahomes. I'm looking on an article on USA Today. So Patrick Mahomes is plus 105. Saquon Barkley is plus 240. Jalen Hurts is plus 375. Travis Kelce plus 1,500. Xavier Worthy plus 3,000. A.J. Brown plus 3,500. Kareem Hunt plus 6,600. Devontae Smith plus 6,600. And same thing with Jalen Carter and Chris Jones. So, of course, Patrick Mahomes is the favorite. The Chiefs are the Chiefs are favored in the game as of right now. Yeah, right now the Chiefs are 1-point favorites. So, and the Chiefs have been there so many times. We've been through this already. But, yeah, it makes sense why he's the favorite. And then Saquon Barkley has better odds to win Super Bowl MVP than Jalen Hurts. And I think, if Saquon Barkley, has the kind of game that he has had, in these playoffs and even going back to the regular season, and the Eagles end up winning, I think he's going to get it. Like, if he has, the performance that he had in the championship game where he had 3 touchdowns, and he sets the tone with that, 60-yard touchdown run, or whatever it was, 60 or 70 yards, he's going to get it. The Eagles are going to ride Saquon Barkley if, they're able to, run the ball effectively against the Chiefs. And I'm curious to see how the game goes, early on, because, yeah, I think, if the Chiefs are vulnerable to the run in this game, the Eagles are going to run the football, and they're not going to throw it as much. But, because they really didn't, in the last Super Bowl, the running backs did not do well. And now it's different because you got Barkley, and Jalen Hurts had to throw it more, and Jalen Hurts did a good job. Jalen Hurts had a couple of nice throws, the touchdown to A.J. Brown, and then, to set up the game-tying touchdown, the pass to Devontae Smith down the sidelines. He was able to move the ball. That offense was able to move the ball against the Chiefs' defense. So if Saquon, is struggling early, then you're going to have to rely on Jalen Hurts to throw it more. If Jalen Hurts has 3 touchdown passes in the game, then and the Eagles win, then he's probably going to get it. But the Eagles are going to try to lean on Saquon in this game. And, if he's struggling, then, Jalen Hurts is going to have to win this game. But, yeah, I get why Saquon's got better odds. But still, the quarterbacks are going to be towards the top in terms of being the likely list to win the MVP. I don't even know why I said it like that. But more likely to win the MVP. Travis Kelce, who knows? He'd have to have a big day for it. But honestly, I feel like his odds should be a little bit lower. Because I don't know if he's going to be that impactful in this game. He did have a big game against the Texans in the divisional round. But, I get it. I don't know. Maybe I would put A.J. Brown ahead of Kelce and Xavier Worthy. Now, Xavier Worthy, we didn't really talk about him to open up the show, but he has been good as of late. Since Marquise Brown came back, he has really, stepped up and, he's taken on a bigger role and he's looked great. And the other thing, too, is, and I know people have mocked them for this, but the fact that the Bills traded with the Chiefs in the NFL draft, so the Chiefs could trade up and get Xavier Worthy, that was ridiculous. Why did the Bills do that? And then the other thing, too, is they also traded with the Bills back when the Chiefs drafted Patrick Mahomes. What are the Bills doing? I mean, obviously we didn't know Mahomes was going to turn into the quarterback that he is now, but still, it's just funny how that works out. But I do agree, though. I mean, honestly, I was going to say I do agree that Worthy should have the best odds to win MVP out of the Chiefs receivers. Out of the Chiefs receivers, who has the best chance? But I don't know. Maybe the way things are right now, maybe you would put Worthy, ahead of Kelsey. I don't know. But I do agree with A.J. Brown. I think A.J. Brown should maybe have a little bit better odds. Just because he's the number one receiver on the Eagles. Kareem Hunt, it's interesting. Kareem Hunt, you don't see Isaiah Pacheco there. And, again, I didn't really talk about the Chiefs' running game to open up the show when we were previewing the game. It's really been Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt has taken over as the lead back. Even with Pacheco coming back. We'll see, if Pacheco can be impactful in this game coming up. But, yeah, I mean, I guess right now it's Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt is still, I guess the healthier running back of the two. Pacheco's still kind of working his way back, from being hurt pretty much the whole year. So, yeah, it would make sense that, you see Kareem Hunt here and not Isaiah Pacheco. Devontae Smith has the same odds as both Jalen Carter, Chris Jones, and Kareem Hunt. I don't think we're going to see a defensive player get it. And, I talked about earlier, they had, the Super Bowl specials on and, Von Miller. I think he was the last defensive player to win the award, right? Yeah, because Mahomes has won it. Brady won it with Tampa. Cooper Kupp won it with the Rams. I'm trying to think. Edelman won it with the Patriots. Nick Foles won it. Brady won it. Yeah, the last person to win it was the last defensive player to win it was Von Miller. And there are defensive players in this game that could definitely, make their mark. Like Chris Jones, I think is the best defensive player in this game. And then, you got a couple of guys that, can make their mark. Jalen Carter as well on the Eagles side. Maybe, guys in the secondary for both teams. Maybe they have a big day. You pick off Jalen Hurts a couple times, or you pick off Mahomes a couple times if you're Cooper DeJean or Quinyon Mitchell. But I think it's probably either going to be, if the Chiefs win, it's going to be Mahomes. And if the Eagles win, I think it's going to be Saquon Barkley. Unless the Eagles pull off like what the Chiefs did the last time when they were down by a couple of scores, they come back and win the game. If the Eagles are down by, 2 scores in this game, Jalen Hurts is going to have to be the guy to step up. But, yeah, I think it's either going to be Patrick Mahomes or Saquon. And that's easier said than done. Mahomes has won the Super Bowl MVP every time that they've won. And I think if the Chiefs win, it's going to be because of Mahomes. So, unless Kareem Hunt has like a 200-yard rushing day, which I don't think he's going to be able to do against. Definitely not going to be able to do that. Might get, 60, 70 yards because this Eagles defense is really good. So, but yeah, I think if it's anybody, it's going to be Mahomes with the Chiefs. And yeah, it's going to be between Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley, but I would lean towards Saquon Barkley as of right now. But we'll see what happens. We will have to wait and see. Maybe it's someone we don't even know. Maybe it just turns into a kicking battle between Jake Elliott and Harrison Butker. And, the Chiefs end up winning 18-15. Butker makes 6 field goals. They win. He ends up winning Super Bowl MVP, or vice versa. Jake Elliott kicks 6 field goals. They win 18-15, and he wins it. No, it's not happening. But let me know what you guys think, though. Who do you think has the best odds to win Super Bowl MVP? Well, who do you think will win Super Bowl MVP? I mean, I think it's going to be Mahomes because, I have the Chiefs winning. So, yeah, I'm taking Mahomes there. Because with the Eagles, it's a little bit different. Because Saquon Barkley has taken over games. And, maybe there's a moment. Maybe this is a game where he doesn't. And Jalen Hurts has to step up. And he takes over. But I think if the Chiefs are winning, it's going to be because of 15. So, but yeah, let me know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments. So, when we come back from our final break of the show, we will talk about the NFL honors. We'll talk about who won what award. Obviously, Josh Allen did win MVP, so you see that. We'll talk about who made the Hall of Fame, and that will take us right to the end of the show for today and into the weekend. And when we come back on Monday, we will have a Super Bowl champion, and football season will be officially over. So enjoy the hype while it lasts, because it's going to be over very soon, and it's sad because I don't want football season to end. But then again, baseball season is on the horizon, and that gets me a little bit excited. Actually, I shouldn't say a little bit. I'm very excited for baseball season coming up. It's going to be interesting to see, how things go there with my team. But yeah, until then, I got to wait. When the Super Bowl ends, you're kind of waiting for. I mean, I'm not really a spring training guy, but I'm gonna watch some of the games at least. But yeah, I want the real thing to start. We got another month before opening day. But yeah, there's gonna be that time period where there's no football and baseball, and I'm kind of just like, well, I guess I'll watch a little bit of basketball, and I guess I'll watch a little bit of hockey. But you got free agency coming up, the draft at some point. So, but yeah, one more game to go. So, like I said, when we come back, we'll talk about the NFL honors and how that all went last night. So, for one final time today, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we are now going to get into talking about the NFL honors and, who ended up winning what award, things like that. So I did watch it. Snoop Dogg was the host, and, he was okay, I guess. He was the host. But let's get into who won what award. So the big one, of course, was Josh Allen. Josh Allen gets his first MVP, and well-deserved. I don't think Lamar Jackson was there last night. I feel like we would have saw him, but yeah, he wasn't there. So that was kind of telling early on that I thought, all right, Josh Allen's definitely going to get it then. That is not the right segment there. But yeah, I could tell right off the bat, yeah, Josh Allen's going to get it. And I did feel that going into the NFL honors last night. I said, you know what, I'm leaning towards it going to be Josh Allen. And part of that was because Lamar Jackson, he got the All-Pro honors. And I guess, sometimes, one quarterback could get All-Pro and the other gets MVP. That has happened before. So it was partly that, but also, the other thing too is I said it, the Bills, the 2 seed, and, when you kind of look at who is more valuable, now sometimes, that doesn't always make the case for MVP, but Josh Allen was definitely more, I said this, Josh Allen was more valuable to the Bills this season than Lamar Jackson was. Now, they're both very valuable to their teams, but Josh Allen is more valuable. When going into the year, the Bills were expected to take a step back. Now, I started going towards that and thinking, oh, they just like not going to make the playoffs. But then I'm like, nah, they're going to make the playoffs. You got Josh Allen. They've been to the playoffs since he's really, turned it up. Has really developed into one of the better quarterbacks in the league. They're not going to miss out. Now, I didn't have them winning the division, but I still had them making the playoffs. But Josh Allen went out and he had arguably his best season. And, he had a couple of games, against the Bills and against the Rams and the Lions where, he scored 5 touchdowns, and he made a lot of great plays this year. And, the Bills, they came up a little bit short, which is, it's upsetting that, this continues to happen. But, at some point, guys like him, guys like Lamar Jackson, you would think they're going to break through, right? They have to. But it's well-deserved that he got this award. And I'm happy that, he has an MVP to his resume now. And now he's just got to go out there and get it done in the postseason. It's the same thing that goes with Lamar Jackson. They got to go out there and get it done. And finally, if it's the Chiefs that stand in their way, they got to be able to knock them off. And we'll see if they end up doing that at some point. But either way, he's very gracious of the award. Thanked his family. His fiance was with him as well. So, it was a good night for him. And, hopefully, like I said, now next step is winning that Super Bowl. So, we'll see. But let's go through some of the other award winners now, shall we? So, Defensive Player of the Year ended up being Patrick Surtain II. And it was kind of funny because when he was up there, the label pops up on the bottom and it says Myles Garrett on the screen. So somebody screwed up there with Myles Garrett instead of Patrick Surtain. But Patrick Surtain had a really good year for the Broncos. He's the top corner in the NFL. So well-deserved there. I think, what did I say? I think I said Trey Hendrickson just because he was the sack leader. But, he ended up not getting it. Myles Garrett, like I said, he was up for the award. T.J. Watt was up for the award. But Patrick Surtain is a heck of a player, and he's one of the cornerstones to the Broncos right now. So well-deserved there. Kevin O'Connell ended up winning Coach of the Year. That was kind of expected. The Vikings, not a lot of people expected them to be as good as they were. 14 games. You had Sam Darnold as your quarterback who went out and had a good year. Kevin O'Connell's a good coach. So, congratulations to him. Jared Verse, he won Defensive Rookie of the Year. The Rams, they did a good job, rebuilding this defensive line with, him and Fisk, after Aaron Donald retired. So, they got a good player on defense, and, so far so good with, what he's been able to do. Saquon Barkley won Offensive Player of the Year. No surprise there. He wasn't going to get MVP, but he was going to get Offensive Player of the Year. So I'm not surprised by that. Joe Burrow won Comeback Player of the Year. I felt very strongly of that. I figured he was going to get something. It was funny because they talked about how he was up for multiple awards last night. MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Comeback Player of the Year. And I was like, imagine if he wins none of them. I was like, he's going to win at least one. And Comeback Player of the Year, he deserved it. He, missed, the last quarter or so of the season with the wrist injury last year. And, if the Bengals finished with a better record, if they were higher up there, with the seedings, he probably would have won MVP. And he even said it. He said that nobody really played better than him this year. But, I think if the Bengals would have gotten off to a better start, he would have been the MVP. Jane Daniels actually won 3 awards last night. So he won Offensive Rookie of the Year. He won the Play of the Year, which was the Hail Mary. And then this one says there was another rookie award. Oh, Pepsi Next Rookie of the Year. I guess that's what it's called. But yeah, Offensive Rookie of the Year, though, he deserved it. It could have been Bo Nix. Some of the receivers were good this year, but Jane Daniels was the best. I mean, he led his team to the playoffs, and they got all the way to the NFC Championship game. I mean, he really deserved it. And as a Giant fan, you got to give him props. It just hurts because now you have the Eagles who are not going away. Now you got the Commanders to deal with, a team that the Giants used to beat up on, and you figure Dallas is going to be better next year. So where does that leave the Giants? And we'll talk about the Giants in a little bit here. But yeah, Jane Daniels, well-deserved. Ben Johnson won Assistant Coach of the Year. Josh Allen and Jamar Chase. Josh Allen won Air Player of the Year. Jamar Chase won the FedEx Ground Player of the Year award. Trey Hendrickson won the Deacon Jones Award. George Kittle won the Salute to Service. Josh Allen also won the Art Rooney Award. Eric Armstead, he won the Walter Payton Man of the Year Award. So those are all the award winners. Now we'll get into the Hall of Fame. So 4 players ended up making it. Eric Allen, Jared Allen, Antonio Gates, and Sterling Sharp. And I got to watch a little bit of how Sterling Sharp found out, because Shannon Sharp was waiting for him, his brother, and he got to tell him he was wearing his gold jacket. So that was pretty cool to see that video. But well-deserved for these guys. Antonio Gates was, a very good tight end during his career. Jared Allen, a very good edge rusher, 4-time Pro Bowler, 4-time first-team All-Pro, and a 5-time Pro Bowler. And in 2007, had an NFL best 15.5 sacks, 19 tackles for loss. Got a All-Pro nod that season. Eric Allen enters the Hall of Fame in his 19th year of eligibility and second as a finalist. Played with a few franchises. Was part of the Eagles secondary, 6 Pro Bowls, first-team All-Pro. 1989, he racked up 8 interceptions. 1993, he led the league with 4 pick-sixes, logged a career-high 3 forced fumbles and 2 sacks, and he finished 8th in Defensive Player of the Year voting that year. He wrapped up his career in New Orleans and Oakland. He had 6 picks and an NFL-high 3 for scores. And then for Antonio Gates, like I said, was a great tight end. He reached 8 straight Pro Bowls from 2004 to 2011. Had 955 total receptions, 11,841 receiving yards, and 116 career touchdowns. And 8 seasons with at least 8 receiving touchdowns are the most among tight ends in NFL history. And he's the Chargers' all-time leader in receptions, receiving yards, and receiving TDs. And this was his second year of eligibility for the Hall of Fame. And then Sterling Sharp was the lone finalist from the seniors, coach, and contributor categories to make the Hall of Fame in 2025. He was an NFL pro for just 7 seasons, 3-time first-team All-Pro, 5-time Pro Bowl wide receiver, and he was a Triple Crown winner. 1992, he paced all pass catchers in catches, receiving yards, and touchdowns. He was one of Brett Favre's favorite targets in Green Bay. His last season in the NFL, career high 18 touchdowns, and they just missed out on a Super Bowl title. That's unbelievable. That's a great finish to your career in just a short amount of time. But yeah, 18 receiving touchdowns, so he made it. But a lot of people were disappointed. I was disappointed, and I did tell you when I came on yesterday that I didn't feel good about Eli Manning's chances of getting in this year. And yeah, I quickly realized that he's not going to get in. At least last night he's not going to get in. But he said he's totally at peace with missing the Hall of Fame ballot, or the first ballot. He's going to get in at some point. I hope it doesn't take too long. I mean, because, I just told you it took Eric Allen a long time to get in. But I think Eli is going to get in at some point. I said, you know what? It would be cool to see him, Rivers, and Ben Roethlisberger all get in at the same time, although then Eli would have to wait a couple more years. I think Rivers will be on the ballot next year, and then Ben the year after, because 2021 was his last year. But I think it would be cool, you have both of those guys, or all of those guys get in at the same time, because that 04 draft class gets talked about a lot with the things that happened with it, and, it turned out to be a pretty good class. I know Rivers ended up not winning a Super Bowl, but he had a good career. Ben Roethlisberger won a couple of Super Bowls. So just to see them all, it to come full circle and all three of them get in at the same time, I think that would be cool. But I don't know if that's going to happen. I mean, I'd like to see Eli get in sooner rather than later. I don't want to see Phillip Rivers get in before Eli. If Phillip Rivers gets in before Eli, I'm sorry, I don't agree with that. Eli's got to get in. Whether it's with Phillip Rivers or before Phillip Rivers, he should not get in after Phillip Rivers. But like I said, I think it'd be cool if all three of them get in at the same time. Rivers, Eli, and Big Ben. That would be pretty cool. But now you got Breeze, who's going to be on the ballot. Brady's going to be on the ballot soon. Those guys. I mean, they're going to get in immediately. So, but we'll see what happens. We'll have to wait and see. But that is pretty much it for the show for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Once again, congratulations to all the award winners from last night at the NFL Honors. Congratulations to the Hall of Fame class of 2025. Well deserved. And we have made it. We have made it to the weekend. Super Bowl is on Sunday. Super Bowl is on the horizon. Can't wait for it. Hope you guys all enjoy the Super Bowl. Make sure to check out all the other shows. Get everybody else's opinion on the game as well for today. And, when we come back on Monday, like I said earlier in the show, we will have a Super Bowl champion, and we will talk about it. So that is all the time that we have for today. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day. Enjoy the game. And I will talk to you guys on Monday. Take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn ain't that